Welcome and thank you for joining us today on A Lawyer and a Mediator Walk Into a Bar. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast today and acknowledge their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hi, everybody. This is Paula. This show is not about legal advice. It's really just about our experiences going through the process in the family law courts, what can work, what doesn't work. It's just about the process, giving you some familiarity with it, and hope that gives you a little bit of a help.
You're listening to a Mel and Kim Productions podcast. What happens when a lawyer and a family mediator step into a bar? Join us to find out. Dianne and Paula have real conversations about the family law process in Australia. Whether you're a part of the family law system or about to engage in the process, find out what the realities versus perceptions are. Dianne and Paula don't hold back on their individual perspectives and experiences.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A Lawyer and a Mediator Walk Into a Bar. I'm Dianne Loveday, and as per usual, I'm here with my lovely colleague,
Her sidekick. I'm Paula Applehans. I'm with Betts Law Company. We do all sorts of, pretty much anything that walks in the door, but my focus is on family law for this podcast.
And continuing on with our discussion around family violence and the different perspectives in relation to FDR or family dispute resolution and the legal perspective, we have a guest today.
We have a lovely guest today. We've already been chatting.
Lovely guest today. So we have Ashton Wood, the founder of DV Safe Phone, with us today, and Ash has a really great idea on how to help people leaving domestic violence situations have a secure phone, because it's a big issue. I know from my perspective, when I'm talking to somebody initially at my intake, is I will ask, what sort of phone do you have? Have you been to the Genius Bar and made sure it has no tracking devices on it? Are you sure that they don't know where you are? You know, what do you need some help with this? And because it's definitely something I talk to people about.
Yeah, and it's also one of the first things that gets confiscated, from the person with the power. Easy enough. Grip it, wrap it out of their hands, hide it from them.
I'll go through it on a regular basis. That's the other part. But anyway, Ash, you'll notice we like to chat. So jump in at any point. But please introduce yourself and your business and tell us a bit about you and how you got to this point.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here. It's really, really nice to be here. And I'm probably the least educated person in this room about domestic violence, to be honest. So I run an IT company. We do consulting, corporate stuff. We spend time in Melbourne, Sydney and Singapore often. And a lot of the projects I do were the big global projects. But I was starting to wonder, what difference am I making? You know, we roll out these huge projects of new equipment into mining and banking industries around the world, and we know that in eight years' time, that equipment's end of life, it's out the window, and it'll be replaced. And through that, COVID happened.
Yeah.
So suddenly all my travel stopped, and I live in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast, and I used to travel a lot, and all the travel suddenly just came to a screaming halt. The work didn't, but the travel did. And I was like, this is fantastic. I like this. I felt sorry for everyone in Victoria who was in lockdown for 290 days, but up on Sunshine Coast, we were free as a bird. So I had all this extra time on my hands, so I thought I'll do something good. I'll clean up the house. I'll fill the car with goods to donate to charity. You know, that's something I can do. I've got plenty of time now. So I loaded up the car, got it ready to go, and then I got lazy. And I thought, I cannot be bothered driving at 5 minutes up the road to a local charity shop. I'll do that in the morning. Well, that night we went into lockdown.
Oh, so timing is everything, isn't it?
Yeah. So my car's fully loaded, ready to go, and nothing's open. And I'm like, oh, God, okay, well, it wasn't junk, but I didn't want it back in the house. So I thought, someone's got to want this. So I rang the only person I could think of who would have a need. It was an ex-police senior sergeant who I'd met through the Chambers of Commerce locally. And I knew she dealt with domestic violence but didn't know much more. I said, Janine, I've got a carload of goods. Where do I bring it? Like, everything's shut down now. And she said, Ash, what I need right now are mobile phones.
Oh.
Wait, what? Phones? I've got a carload of stuff here. She goes, yeah, I need phones. And she knew I was in IT.
Yeah.
And I said, Janine, I've got 2 phones in my drawer. They're perfect. I've just upgraded because I'm a super geek and love the latest tech. They've just gone in the drawer. There's nothing wrong with them. You can have them. And she goes, well, those phones could save a life. I'm like, how? What do you mean? She said, well, in domestic violence, the phone is quite often the first thing to get smashed, monitored or taken. and it leaves the victim with no way to call for help. I'm like, oh my God, all right, well, sure, you can have my 2 phones, but how many more do you want? She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm in IT. There's phones everywhere.
I can go collect
I
it.
can get you some phones. I've got a pretty big LinkedIn network as well, and I know that everyone on there we're all into tech. It's kind of the industry we're in. And she said, you will never get me enough phones. I'm like, really?
Challenge.
Let's see about that. So I said,
Isn't that the way to do it?
yeah. So I said, all right, I'm going to get you some phones. Give me a number. Like, how many phones do you need? And I'm thinking 50, 60 phones, something like that.
Yeah.
And she said, well, there's over 2 million victims of domestic violence. I'm like, wow, 2 million? Well, I didn't know this. So I said, that's a huge number. All right, well, I can't guarantee 2 million phones, but I'll get you what I can.
Yeah.
Let's just see how we go with this. I said, but just so I can be clear with all the people I'm going to ask, what countries will you send all these phones to? And she said, countries? I said, you said 2 million people. She goes, Ashton, what rock are you living under? This is just here in Australia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that can't be right. We've got 25 million people here and you're saying there's 2 million victims. She said, well, that's the official government numbers from 2016.
Yeah, like that
was before COVID and numbers haven't been updated a lot. So they're not the actual figures, but that's the official figures we can use. So well, that's horrible. All right, well, let's see what happens. So I just went out to my network and said, come on, I'm collecting phones. Send them up to me in Queensland. And I'm just assuming everyone's old phones were like mine. They'd upgraded because they wanted to, not because they had to. A lot of people upgrade because their phone breaks.
It dies, yeah.
And then they are forced to upgrade.
Right.
So I start receiving all these phones that had cracked screens and dead batteries and no charger cables. And I'm like, oh, this is getting difficult.
Interesting.
So I reached out to a friend who ran a bunch of phone repair stores. I said, look, I'm doing this. Is there anything, can people drop them to your stores? Because I don't really want them turning up in my house.
Well,
He said, yeah, and in fact, we're open through COVID. We're an essential service. We've got 2 staff at every store and they're bored. Like there's no one going out. Everyone was staying home. They're not coming near the shopping centres. They don't want to catch COVID. And he said, and I've got so much stock here of older devices. People generally don't want to fix an iPhone 7 anymore.
no.
They want to fix an iPhone 13. So we ended up just, went to media with him and said, hey, look, I've got an old phone, drop it into one of his 9 stores at the time. And he was fixing them for me for free, just using stock they had.
Wonderful.
And so,
There are good people in the world, aren't there?
they amazing
Pop
people.
up.
Yeah. So we end up getting around 300 phones repaired and sorted and sent down through this police officer and then into Brisbane. And then we started really flooding one of the areas in Brisbane. And they're like, well, you need to slow this down. Like we now need to find SIM cards for them and pay for postage and get them out to the other agencies to get to the victims who need them. And I'm like, look, I'm happy to offer this to any agency. I'm not qualified to offer it to a victim, and I understand that we can give a phone to a victim, but what about all the other help that we can't do? So we said, let's make sure these go to the front line. Yeah. So domestic violence agencies, safe houses, hospitals, police stations, that's it. And then they get our phones and then they can provide them as part of the safety and escape plan to the person that they're helping. Because we've learned to understand that there's so many different ways these phones are needed. There's people who might be escaping domestic violence, but they've got evidence of harassment on the phone, and the police might need that evidence to create a strong legal case. So the idea now is the police can say, look, we're going to need your phone for the evidence, but here, have a free DV safe phone. And our phones are, nothing will leave that's not immaculate. So we're currently sending out iPhone 13s regularly. Like we get some really good phones coming through. And the other thing is someone, like you said earlier, presents at a safe house and they'll say to the survivor, have you got a phone on you that your partner knows about? And if the answer is yes, they say, shut that thing down right now because this could expose a location and now no one's safe here.
Yep.
So again, they'll say, shut that down, here, take a safe phone. So we're currently sending out between 100 and 150 phones a week go out.
A week?
A week. Yeah. We sent out our 10,000th phone about 3 weeks ago. So it's just...
So this isn't just a hobby anymore.
No, it started as a hobby and then
This is
it
not just
when I look, because my other business being in the IT and reputation management side of things, I thought, what could go wrong here? I thought,
Has anything gone wrong?
No, thank God. No, I thought, what could go wrong? One is I make this work well and someone copies this and gets phones and sells them because there's a huge secondhand phone market out there.
There is.
And I would hate for people to think, giving us a phone and it's going to get sold. I'll never sell a phone. We just have to find other ways. And my board, they humour me a lot when I say we just need to find other ways to fund it. It's not going to be through selling phones, even though we've probably got 8,000 phones in the office right now with damage.
Yeah,
they're still worth money. They could be sold.
I was
But I'm
gonna
like,
say times whatever the
no,
amount.
we need money to fix them and give them away. So nothing is to get sold. We need to find the money from other places. And it's getting there. We've had some amazing support from corporates. So a lot of corporates, they have these boxes of phones they don't know what to do with. And some sell them. Some just have them sitting in a box going, well, what are we going to do with these things? So Commonwealth Bank have given me over 4,000 phones so far. That's $380,000 worth of phones.
Yeah.
ANZ Bank recently just gave me $100,000 to help us fix some of the phones that need repairs and employ a technician to do it.
Fantastic.
So
Really?
we're getting support, really good support from the corporates. We're also applying, we spend a lot of time applying for grants.
Yeah.
Because
Probably, 75% of your time?
probably more, yeah. But I love the grants. They're good.
Yeah.
A lot of them, though, they're quite specific. So not many grants will pay for people or rent
Right.
or power. They'll pay for things like screens and batteries, but I still need people to
Yeah,
do it.
do those
the
things.
work,
So
yeah.
we've got 6 part-time people now and 18 volunteers.
How long is this? How long have you been doing this?
Nearly
then?
5 years ago I started.
Just 5?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so my other business is kind of ground to a halt because I'm not giving it much love at the moment. But I'm getting so much more satisfaction out of this.
Yeah.
Like it's actually every phone we send out is someone's life, and
Potentially.
it's a gift.
Yeah.
And so let's give them a safe way to communicate with their partner and their
Well,
family and friends.
other
and-
families,
Yeah.
yeah.
and we'd never need the phone back. It's a gift. And the other great thing is for environmental. These phones
Yeah.
were going to end up probably getting crushed or recycled.
Yeah.
If they sit in a box long enough, they're going to get end of life and not get used at all.
Yeah.
So our aim is to let's get our hands on them as soon as they're no longer needed. Let's get them in before they become end of life, because we know the big mobile phone producers don't want to see the old phones out there anymore. Like an iPhone 6, you can't even update it anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah,
I've got
all
such
run
an old
their course.
iPad. I'm getting the message now. It's like, you can no longer
Yeah,
update.
correct, yeah.
Yeah, I love that the way they build in uselessness.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, I can still get Netflix and I can still get ABC iView. I think I'm good with it.
Yeah, yep, it serves its
But there's
purpose.
things you can't use it for, which
Yeah.
the victims need, like accessing your bank, accessing Centrelink, like all the services now that, because the technology and the reason
Yep.
they don't let the old ones work is there's the patch updates that are needed because there's vulnerabilities on software.
Yep.
That's why Apple and Android are always updating their
They did
the
it
software
recently.
to
user
Yeah.
agreements.
to deal with the criminals out there that are trying to hack them all the time.
Yeah.
So they always find these little
Yeah.
ways, in. So they keep updating the software, and unfortunately, software scripts are bigger, needs more compute power. The older devices can't handle it. So anything above a 7 or 7 or above is perfect for us.
Okay.
Because we'll check the battery health and quite often replace a battery.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We'll check the screens, and new screens for those are not expensive, not like they used to
Oh,
be.
great.
Like a
Well,
screen for an iPhone 16 that's just come out, that'll be $600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A screen for an iPhone 7 we can get for like $35.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
if I have a choice of
Yeah.
a whole bunch of iPhone 7s or 8s that have cracked screens, or one iPhone 14 comes in,
Yeah,
we'll fix
we
the old
can-
ones first, because
Yeah.
that's a lot of lives we can
Well, there's a
save.
volume,
but
right?
then when we win grants, I'll go, you know what, let's go get that really nice one fixed now.
Yeah.
Because
You can.
we can. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is we never know who gets our phones.
Well, I think it's beautiful enough that you've actually thought about where those phones can go, like hospitals. Why wouldn't I have thought of hospitals?
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm not educated in this area at
Yeah.
all. So for me, I hear these things like we had a nurse call up and said, hey, can we please get a phone for a victim? I'm like, well, where do you work? And it's a big public hospital.
Yep.
I'm thinking to myself, aren't they government funded? Like billions of dollars. I think, why are they asking me for it? So I had a chat. I said, well, how's it going to work?
Yeah.
She said, well, someone's just been hospitalised for domestic violence. So severe injuries.
Yeah.
But she has to go home. She's got kids
And
pets,
nowhere to go.
belongings,
Yep.
nowhere to go. She's got no choice. She's not ready. She might be ready soon, but not yet.
Yeah.
So they work with those people on an escape plan to say, look,
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
it's going to happen again, but we understand right now you're not ready to go. But when the nurse goes into the hospital system and says, hey, can we protect her with a phone? no way. Like the nurse cannot get approval to buy a phone for someone
No.
who's going home.
Or the social worker or anybody else involved in the case. So
we're happy to provide boxes of 5 or 10 phones into these places, and they get held in a secure area within that little area. And the nurses have total ability to hand our phones out
and
as they see fit.
availability to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we don't need remitting. All we ask for is de-identified stories, because coming from corporate, you can really tie things up with process. And we
the
know
acquittals, right?
Well, yeah, and grants, exactly. The grants that we
The
apply
acquittals
for.
on the
Some of
grants,
those are
I'm
like,
sorry,
oh my
that could be
God.
daunting.
Yes.
You know, for $50,000, they want 50,000 pages.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
So does this sort of, the red tape sort of limit where, to give you a little bit of background, my client base is Middle Melbourne. Okay, so we're Blue Ribbon Melbourne.
Yep.
And the number of, I make a joke that if I had $1 for every difficult personality type that walked through my door, I'd drive a better car, and I drive an Audi. So it's not, and while I completely understand where you're coming from, it's fantastic what you're doing. I think there's this massive cohort of people escaping family violence where it's not visible. It's people who it's financial, emotional, psychological. It's the real coercive control elements.
Yes.
And they're stuck. Often they're stuck. And one of the first questions I'll ask a client, so my process is that I see each party individually before I then bring them together to mediate. So in that intake interview with the party that I think is at risk, I will start asking questions because I've got to determine whether mediation is suitable. So I will ask questions around their family situation. And you'd be surprised the number of people are actually not aware that they're in an abusive relationship. So then I'll start gently suggesting ways to keep themselves and their kids safe. And one of those is, what sort of phone do you have? And is that phone safe? Do you know if there's any tracking devices on it? Is there anything there that we need to? Have you been to the Genius Bar and just double checked all of this? So how would I be able to, with clients that I think are really at risk, how would my clients be able to access your phones?
Yeah, so on our website, we have 2 maps. One map are all the places people who have old phones can drop them into, and there's about 950 places around the country.
Oh, great.
Including
so we'll get a copy of
all
that map,
Fernwood
right?
Fitness, all Fernwood Fitness gyms, lots of
right.
car dealerships. There's so many places around the country where people can drop their phones to, and then those phones will find their way to us to fix and get back out. And we have another map, and that's for people escaping violence, that has all the agencies who receive our phones,
There we go.
apart from safe houses and hospitals. We obviously
course.
don't put them on the map.
No.
But they're all the public-facing agencies. And, again, they're all across the country, and they're growing. There's around 350 of those right now. We're adding about 5 a week. So we don't advertise for this because, obviously, everyone's going to say, yes, please, how many phones can I get? So we wait for agencies to come to us or the police. So in Victoria here, we're piloting it right now at Ballarat Police Station.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so they're piloting it. They love it. They love the idea. In Queensland, we've got over 100 police stations receiving phones from us. So it just takes one police station to say, well, how do we do this? How's it going to work? And then they realise it's so easy. We literally send a box of 10 phones to them, and
There you go.
in the box is a piece of paper with all the IMEI numbers, makes and models of the phones, because we know the phones that came into us, what we did and where we sent them.
Right.
And they get a piece of paper with the IMEI numbers and the makes and models, and every box is obviously different. And next to those is some space for them to write the person's name and the date they gave it to them. And that's for their own records. We never want to see that.
Right.
So that way they can keep track of who's getting phones from them, from their own station or agency or hospital or wherever it's coming from. And we will never need that information. I don't want that information, to be honest.
No.
Like I don't want us to ever hold safe house addresses or victims' names. Because again, coming from corporate IT, that's data you don't need to hold. You don't need to hold. So
Why expose yourself?
Yeah.
And you're right. You don't need it. You're sending the phones to the agencies. That's on.
Yeah, and we
that's
trust
on
them to do the
So,
right thing. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And there's enough agencies out there you would think that would be able to, But I'm interested in what's happening in Victoria.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Specifically,
Well,
It sounds like we're a little behind the 8 ball.
It certainly is. Look, I started in Queensland, so
Yeah.
the Queensland Commissioner heard about it. We met with her at the time. She endorsed it. So she went on media and said, this is a great program. We're not enforcing it, but any police station who wants to do this, it's endorsed, go for it.
Yep.
And that's when we just started getting all these police stations
I was going to say
jumping on
that just
board. Yeah.
steamrolled from that.
Western Australia, one police station heard about it, and it just happened to be the guy that was really well connected with the press. And he was looking for good news stories because they're always getting beaten up. The police are always getting media on them about something. So he was looking for some good news stories. So he started to use this, hey, look, bring your old phones into the police station, drop them off here, we'll collect. And then out of that, we were obviously already sending him phones, and it's not a one-for-one. If they collect 10 phones, we'll still give them more.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But he really used it in the media to promote some good stuff the police are doing in Western Australia, which meant more and more police stations in Western Australia came on. So we've actually got more police stations in every other state but Victoria right now. As I said, it's being piloted by one right now. Victoria Police seem very cautious.
One place
One
in Victoria?
No,
and
one
it's
police station.
One police station.
But lots of
in all of Victoria?
Yep.
And it's in Ballarat.
Yep, they're piloting it because the police here are being very cautious. Is probably
What are their concerns? Have they mentioned what they? I mean, obviously there's got to be some concerns raised as to why they don't initiate.
Originally, I presented to them here in Melbourne at Spencer Street, and the first thing was, what's your long game? I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, well,
what you get?
Yeah.
And I get it.
We're not cynical, really.
But I get it. The
Conspiracy
police are
theorists.
only generally seeing the worst
Worst of people.
of people, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I've walked in there saying you can have free phones, and they're like, "Yeah, what you get? What do you
Yeah.
what do you want out of this, mate?" And because I guess they would have a lot of people go, "Oh, if we can get this into Victoria Police, we could sell them licensing or sell them. That'd be a huge
What's your next
account."
step? Yeah, what's your pathway?
I said, guys, there is no get. Like, these phones are free. It's in my interest because I'm getting them from Melbourne. Like I said, ANZ Bank, the head office is here in Melbourne, and they just gave me $100,000. I want to make sure phones are getting back to Melbourne. I've got to get back to Victoria. I want to keep this thing fair across the country.
But you've got plenty of references now, or referees, or people.
We got
that-
heaps. And we've
programs,
given them the contacts of
Yeah.
police over in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales. South Australia, Western Australia, Queensland, and New South Wales. So they've got
pretty
references,
much.
but they're just checking. They're just being cautious. They're checking it out. So now that now Ballarat's on board piloting it, it's great. So they're already giving us really good feedback, and we're hoping that the police might say, right, let's enable this in every 24-hour station in Victoria.
Yeah.
Well,
Then
that might be the catch.
And then I'll have a problem
they're
because I've got to
closing
go and
down.
find that many phones.
Yeah, that might be the catch, because I do know they're closing stations, police stations in Victoria.
Are they?
Yeah.
I've met a lot of police through this, and I don't know how they do what they do. Like, I could not, for what they get paid and what they have to put up with.
I was going to say, it's a thankless job, really,
I don't
in
know
many
how they-
ways.
I don't know
But
how
there's
they
that
do
one
it.
time where, somebody did thank them, and they're okay.
Yeah.
Keeps
Kind
them
of
going.
like lawyers. Everything's horrible until it's okay.
But in Queensland, we have them. We run events in Queensland often, and we've got local vulnerable persons unit, they call them, in the police
Yep.
in Queensland. So they deal just with DV. They'll happily come to all our events, and they're great. We've got to know them so well. We even joke with them sometimes and present with donuts.
Wow.
So we find they're really good, and they're happy to be on media, talk about what we do. They're in uniform, so it adds a bit of I guess authority to it.
Yeah.
Depth,
So
validity.
because people have to
Yeah.
trust that they're going to send phones to us, and we're not going to sell them.
Yeah.
But
and that we're going to do the right
there's
things.
nothing in there that's going to be tracking them, or
Correct, yeah.
their data is being
Data safe,
monitored.
yeah. So we put a lot of
Skinned off,
time into that. So the every phone we receive, we hope it's been completely reset, unlocked, and signed out. So that's ideal for us. Then we can literally charge it up, test the battery health, check the screen, and if that all passes, SIM card goes in, make test calls, and it's ready to go.
Done.
That fast.
Yeah.
Quite often they're locked or signed in, or there's severe
I was
damage.
just going to say, how many do you get that are complete? Everybody's details are in there.
Often.
Including all their bank details. And
all
we
the
get phones.
passwords,
We
all
get
the-
phones and we
yeah.
connect into the Wi-Fi network to start the testing process, and then they'll start ringing or messages will start rolling in. We're like, so we'll just clear them down. Clear them down. There's so many we deal with.
It's
So
almost like you cover your eyes to
yeah,
make sure.
kind of a bit like that. But the other thing we've worked out is some phones, especially Apple and newer Samsungs, the locks on them, if they're still signed in, they're made so they can't be reused or resold. That's a security
whole
feature. You
purpose,
can't
yeah.
break that, and that's good. So if I lose my phone in the street, I want to know that someone can't just pick it up and sell it.
yeah.
It's going to be really hard for them to touch that because it's all signed in and locked up, and only I can access it, or I can remotely erase it. So with the phones we can't get into, quite often they'll still have people's data on them. They're just locked away. So we'll quite often use the screens or batteries out of those phones if we can't get into them. And then we recycle the rest through Mobile Master. So they're Australia's leading recycler for mobiles.
No.
And they give me a guarantee, it's called the R2 certification, that any data on the phones will be destroyed through their recycling process. So at least I know
So
we'll
there's
get
an
the phone.
assurance. Yeah,
So either we'll get it
absolutely.
and we'll have it cleared and out to a police station or an agency, or we'll get it, we can't clear it, it's locked up, we'll send it out for recycling and the data will be destroyed that way.
So, but that's something I think everybody should understand, because there's always that lingering. Even when I
Yes.
do change it, did I clear that other one?
Yeah.
My hubby's an IT guy too, but still I wonder, did we get everything? Did we
Yeah,
miss
did
something?
you?
And
Make sure.
Yeah. We've got instructions on our website now of how to do it, so if people do want to know.
Really?
They just go on our website and it
so
tells
we
them
can access
step
your
by step.
website,
Yep, step by step.
declutter our phone, so to speak, and get it all primed and ready for
Yep,
you. And
yep.
I got step-by-step instructions.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
It's all there. It's all there. Yeah, we try and make it as easy as we
I got a
can.
phone coming in December, so maybe.
Nice.
Well, let me
Well,
ask,
truly.
what is the biggest challenge you have found? I mean, other than trying to convince people you're altruistic and that you don't use their data.
The challenge is just getting the phones.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had
Okay.
over 30,000 phones come in so far. We've got 10,000 of them out the door. So 20,000 have had major issues. The 3G network, which is obviously been
which is
shut
not
down
good.
now. So we stopped sending them out in December last year. 'Cause
Yeah.
let's not get in 3G.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
So December last year we made a call that no more 3G phones will go out the door. We'll have to recycle them.
Yeah.
Just we didn't want them to end up in someone's cupboard. And then when they're needed, there's no network. So our challenge is to get enough phones in the door. And then when they come in, then I have the challenge of, well, now I need more people to help me test the phones. And that's where our volunteer network's amazing. We've got some beautiful volunteers, mostly retired or semi-retired people, about 18 of them,
you
including
have a-
my board. And the
Do you have a
board-
crew in Victoria then? Are they all pretty
No,
much
but we
everything
use
goes through-
volunteer days. So again, ANZ Bank have been incredible in so many ways. So they use staff volunteer days
Yeah.
and they pull phones into their corporate office here in Melbourne and they allocate one of their big function rooms or conference rooms and they will just
And
test
people can
phones
staff
for
it.
us. And they'll use
Yeah.
their own teams to test the phones for us, package them up, get them ready.
But small businesses can do that too.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
There's all sorts
Now
of-
they've really taken it on. It's quite
Yeah.
beautiful seeing. Yeah, they said, "Well, where else can we help you?" And so they've been calling the phone drop locations, the 900 places where people drop phones in, because I'll never know what's in those boxes until it turns up at our place, right? So there could be really good phones sitting there, and I just don't know. So ANZ are using volunteer days to call all those locations for us and to say, "Hey, do you have any phones in those boxes?" And if they do, it's up to that person hosting the box to then send the phones to us at their cost. That's part of their give back to community.
Okay.
But ANZ said, well, we can probably help with that too. So they have been sending out reply paid post bags to those places
There you
and
go.
paying for the cost of the phones
Yeah.
to make their way up to us, just to speed up the process to help us get more phones. So
Well, just keep the logistics rolling.
Yeah.
Like I can hardly imagine how you keep up with the logistics.
yes,
Around the country. And,
Yeah.
and because you are documenting the invoicing the phone, knowing what you got in, the exact
Yeah.
number of that phone, that's going out. I mean, that's I don't want to say tedious, but that's a bit of work.
It's a big job. Yeah.
We've had-
I was going to say,
We've just been
you've got a
really-
huge database thing happening here, yeah?
we've been really lucky. So yeah, we had one of these volunteers came in. Her and her husband came in, and they just heard about us and said they want to volunteer. They've walked in, and she's pulled me aside and said, "I see you doing all this through Excel." And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Why are you using Excel?" I said, "Well, because
You're not
that's
using
where we kind of
Salesforce,
started."
or-
Yeah, Excel. What's wrong with Excel? I can push it till it breaks. And she said, "You need an inventory management system." And I went, "Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I agree. But I'm not sure I'm going to pay for that." And
Yeah.
she said, "Well, me and my husband, we consult on this around the world. Well, we used to before we retired. So, should we have a look at this for you?" I said, "Oh, yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
great."
please, thank
So
you.
they built me a full custom inventory management system.
No way.
Yep. So we now have barcode scanners in the office that can literally scan a phone and an IMEI number straight into
Just
the
like
system.
that.
And then when the volunteers come in and test, they've got a screen. They can press the yes or no as they test things. So it basically steps them through every test we do. And they just say, yeah, passed or no, failed. And at the end of it, it'll say to them, that phone's perfect, put in this box, or that phone has certain problems, put in this box that'll mean a screen or battery, or that phone failed too many tests, it's not going to go
It's
out
not
the
gonna
door,
go
so
anywhere.
put that in the recycle box.
So
So
they created an inventory
they
management for
built
you.
the whole thing for us.
Wow.
And it's now got, the 30,000 records, so they imported all the Excel for us, and it's amazing. It's amazing, yeah.
So that's people are nice. Generally speaking,
we have
people
found
people are generally speaking nice.
Businesses can be helpful.
Yes.
Yes.
Social responsibility is for everybody.
Yep.
Yes.
Small, medium, large enterprises, the individual people, local businesses.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
They're all, we have boxes in cafes, they're like single person operations. I go, no, we'll love to host a box for you. We charge $85 for the box. That's the only thing we charge for.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is I first was giving them away.
Yeah.
And we have them on our map and we have ANZ calling to make sure they're okay. And then we're finding boxes were just vanishing, just disappearing.
Really?
And we'd check in why. And they got dropped on the floor or got wet because they're cardboard, like sealed cardboard. They, it got wet, dropped on the floor, someone stepped on it. Because it had I'd given it to them for free. They're like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the box.
No skin in
Now
the
that it's $85, some people go, $85 for a box? I'm like, well, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But if you do it, we'd love you to. But we are going to put you on our map. We're going to tell all of Australia that you are
we're
one of the
marketing
900
you.
places.
Yeah.
So we'll be sending people in who wouldn't probably normally walk into your retail store or dealership or bank. So we've got them in lots of Suncorp bank branches in Queensland. They have them on every wall in every Suncorp. So
You would have thought they'd be in every ANZ.
they're working on it.
Yeah.
They're working on it.
Victoria.
It is hard to get
No,
this.
we've got to get Victoria doing something. This is madness because it is such a good idea. And at every level of
It's easy.
It is easy.
it's an easy
idea.
fix. Yeah.
And I think,
We've
easy
made it
fix
easy.
for some things. You guys have already handled all the logistic challenges. People like easy. I'm sorry.
Oh, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
But we've got to make it easy because of where I want to get it to.
Where do you want to get it to?
Yeah.
So Mobile Muster have told me there's 22 million phones in people's drawers in Australia. 22 million phones in people's drawers.
Trying to think, do I have?
Most people have at least two, like their main one and a spare, or a couple of ones in a drawer.
Yeah.
Corporates have boxes of them, cupboards full of them. So I totally agree with that figure of 22 million phones in drawers and cupboards.
22 million usable
Yeah,
phones?
no, that's the thing. So I need to get them and find out which ones we can use.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We still got to process them.
Yeah,
though.
totally.
Come on, 22 million guys.
But if they're saying there's 2 million victims and 22 million phones, then
we should be able to
we should be able
accommodate.
to sort this out.
Yeah.
We just got to grow
Numbers,
at the
right?
right pace and have enough. That's why with having agencies out there, rather than me having a 24-hour crisis centre handling every call, leave it to the experts.
Well, that's not your background, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
So
Yeah.
why enter that realm when there are
Totally.
plenty? There are there are enough in there.
I did have
That's-
two very big charities reach out when I first started. CEOs of two big charities reached out to me and said, welcome to the space. They were in the DV industry. And they said, and I'm like, okay, hello, who are you? And,
And no, I'm not.
they said, can we give you some advice? And they both gave me the same advice, but they didn't speak to each other about it first. And they said,
so this is normal industry advice.
well, I think from them growing, because they run very large charities that do domestic violence. And they said two things. They said, get a core team of paid people around you to do this, because volunteers are amazing, but they're volunteering because they can.
Yeah.
They're going to go on Christmas holidays. They're going to go overseas. They're going to be looking after grandkids or whatever. They're going to do whatever they like.
And that's the challenge. With
So
any,
if they're doing a critical part of your charity, the wheels will fall off if they go and leave. So make sure that you've got them doing roles that they can come and do it, or they can not come and do it, and your wheels won't fall off your charity. So that's what we've
Well, that's
got
good
some people in.
advice. Yeah. That's very practical. Yeah.
And then the other thing they said is, if you think you've got a way to get phones in this industry for free, please do that and do it well, because no one's managed to do this yet. Like they said, you'll get asked to set up safe houses, to receive mattresses and TVs and help people with DV training and all sorts of things. They said, but if there's so many already doing this, which is needed. But if you reckon you can do for the phones, please just do
focus.
that.
Yeah.
So we've been focusing just on that. But then with our connections to corporates, like Westpac, for example, I talk about the big banks because they're the ones that everyone beats up the big banks.
But they seem to move with these things.
They can make a difference when they mobilise.
Yeah.
So I had Westpac reach out and said, do you need laptops? And I said, oh, yeah, I could do with 5 laptops. That'd be great for the office. And they said, 5? I went, 1 or 2? And they're going, no, we sent them in pallets of 50. I'm like, 50 laptops? I said, look, I don't have facilities to fix them, test them, reload them, do it. Like, we're already chockers with phones. And they said, no, we send them off somewhere else first. They'll be fully erased, reloaded with operating system and Windows, ready to go, with a 3-month warranty support with the company that they'd paid to do it. Do you want them? I go, what are the rules around this? I said, well, obviously you can't sell them, but if you need
yeah.
them and the people you're helping need them, then take them.
Which would be the next step, wouldn't it? Because oftentimes
Correct.
the computer is the thing that is confiscated
Yes.
and
Yep.
disabled or traced.
And if someone's
device,
left the abusive relationship and now they're trying to start on their own, they quite often have nothing but the clothes on their back, let alone
exactly.
a laptop. That's out of the
Exactly.
question. So, but they're still going to need to probably apply for work or do some remote work or do all their. They need a laptop. They need some way.
Well,
So
access school stuff for the kids anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost can't move without doing anything on
Technology.
a laptop. And not everything can be done on the phone, I found.
no, definitely not.
So that's the vision down the track to be
So the
also...
vision for us is that we are going to become the tech provider to the industry. That's where
There
we're
we
going.
go.
That's our
That's
big
brilliant.
audacious goal, and free.
There
So
we go.
we'll never convert to a pay for service thing. It'll be. We know there's enough tech out there. As I said, Westpac have now given me over 100 laptops. NAB send me laptops. Talking to Combank about laptops right now. Like there's enough devices out there, and what they want to see is they're done with it, but they don't want to throw it in a hopper.
No.
They don't want to have someone take it off them and sell it. And let's find a way to get into the hands of the people that need it. And over the years, we'll connect. We're at 350 odd agencies at the moment. That'll be probably 600 by this time next year. I'd say the way it's growing.
But, yeah. Well, once you get Victoria on board.
Yes. Well, yeah. Once Vic Pol come on and say let's do every 24-hour police station, there'll be another 320 police stations just there.
Oh, I would help with that.
Yeah.
I would be at every station.
Yeah, and it'll be great. And there are we get a lot of stations directly reaching out saying, "Can we do this?" We're like, "Yeah, you can from us, but you might need to get some approvals first."
Yeah.
But I said in Queensland, because it was endorsed by the commissioner,
And that made it
helped.
really open.
we can
that
get
really
an email
opened
from
it,
police
didn't it?
station or call tomorrow to say, "Hey, we've heard about your program. How do we get phones?" We're like, "Give us your address." That's it. We'll check you. We'll
I can
check
just
you
see
out
up here,
first to make sure you're
huh?
official. Yeah, we're just like,
You see the eyelids kind of
is
squint.
it that
at
easy?
you.
Is it that easy? But we do limit
The
our phones
eyebrows
to 10.
kinda-
Yeah, we limit 10 at a time.
10 at a time.
Just because you'd be surprised when an agency hears, and we have a little form they can fill in, and we just have an open question: how many phones do you need right now? Some will say 60. Wow, that's a lot of phones to need right now. And the reason is they're so hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
That if there's a way to get them, all right, let's grab 60 and put them in the cupboard so we've got them for the
Yeah.
next 60 people.
Yeah.
But I'm saying no. We want to keep these going out. We don't want them locked in cupboards the way that
No, we want to keep
We
them.
want 'em
Getting
out
used.
there
Keep 'em mobile.
getting used. And just, I'll say to them now, in the past, we get it. It's been hard to get phones. Now it's not with us. So just take 10, use them as you see fit. And when you get down to 1 or 2, let us know and we'll get you another 10. So it'll be continuous.
Yeah.
There's no stop to it. And all we ask for is de-identified stories. So we can talk to the donors, the corporates, the individuals,
And explain
about
how
the
it's
impact.
working.
Yeah, because we don't know the people who get them, so we don't know any impact. So we've got over 1,000 stories right now.
Really?
Yeah, that have come in from police and agencies,
Well,
de-identified.
what would be the one that sticks out most to you?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure
What would
you're
resonate?
reading them.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
Well, what would resonate the most, and what
the ones that we see a lot of is where police are called to a domestic violence occurrence, and they what we call extract the victim. So they say protect the victim, get her out of there. And not always her, but mostly. It's men, women, children. We know that, but it's mostly women that are experiencing this. So they get her to the station and say, right, let's get you protected. Let's what happened, how to do it. Let's get an AVO, DVO protection in place. And quite often the victim survivor will say, no, I'm not going to say it. And they just lock down. They don't say anything. Because before that or up to that point, the partner has been saying things like, police are all men, they're never going to believe your story. You got unpaid parking fines. You call the police, they're going to lock you up. Right? There's all this stuff that gets put into their heads.
Gaslighting.
We've only had 1 or 2 stories like that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right. So
Just in the last 3 days.
yeah, I imagine it's a real shame. But what we've found with our phones is the police will say, all right, you're not ready to press charges. We get it. It's a shame, but we're ready to help you. So what do you want to do? And I'll have to go back home because I've got things there, kids,
Yeah.
pets, belongings, all.
Whatever the
I'm not
reason
ready.
is,
So the police say, look, take one of these safe phones with you. Take it home and hide it because it will happen again. And next time it could be a lot worse. And your main phone will probably get taken during this anyway and smashed. So take this, hide it, and when it happens again, call us. We'll help you again. Quite often that second time when it happens, they come back in and they've now got rapport with the police. They trust the police. They've given them a phone at no cost, no strings attached.
Yeah.
Here's a phone. So then the stories we get in is that the person is now in a position to put that application in, get the protection, and get the help they need to get out of the DV situation.
So these phones have actually created the pathway, the access point, that when they are ready, they've got it, they've got the means, they got the availability, and because they've now established that rapport and the trust, because it is a trust issue.
Yeah,
let's be
I was to
honest.
say it's the trust.
Trust
that's
but
a big
verify.
part. Yeah.
kind of a thing. But that is
Yeah.
that is the momentum you're finding in how these are being effective.
Yep.
Most of those stories are really about how they come back.
Yes, it's the second or third time when they've now got the trust where they'll be willing to say, because they're worried that they're being asked to explain everything that happened, but in the back of their mind, their partner's been saying, they're all men, they're not going to trust you. And they're thinking, well, I'm going to say this story going to get back to my partner, and then violence is even worse. So it's getting them to understand that this is confidential. It's not going to get back. The police are trying to help, but you, at the end of the day, you still have to agree to it.
Yeah.
And then what I regularly say is that there are so many amazing support services out there. People just need to have the confidence and support to get out and leave. You know, there's the Escaping Violence program. There's obviously safe houses. There's never enough safe houses, but the stories we get back is that they find a way. You know, when someone's ready to go, the agencies, they get together. They find a way. So you think they're in competition with each other. So up in Sunshine Coast, we've got 4 agencies that I give phones to. If any of them are out of phones, they'll ring each other and go, hey, have you got any phones I can have? And they'll give them to each other. Yeah, no worries, take them. They'll be talking to each other about what safe houses vacancies they've got available at any time. So even though they're technically in competition with each other, because they're all after government fund, a lot of them get government funding.
No, but there's plenty to go around, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that that type of collaboration does exist.
Yes.
It really does, especially on the coast. Maybe it's because Sunshine Coast is a bit different, possibly, but we see it directly. We see it. We do events for, right now, 16 days of activism. Domestic Violence Prevention Month in May, where we all turn up to things together, and we march down the street or
You make yourself
sign
visible.
but all together, all the agencies. So I think the more we collaborate on this with everyone, the better, and that's why I set up this map of every DV agency and police station that get our phones, because I don't mind if they're in competition with each other or not. We'll probably end up becoming the only map that I know of that we don't discriminate in the agency or any. Like, there's agencies that deal with men, women, children. They're all on my page. I had the police in New South Wales. The first question a female police officer asked me, she said, "Can I give one of these phones to a man who's going through DV?" I said, "Absolutely. You're the expert on this, not me. Like, I'm giving you the phones to give to whoever you think needs it." And she's like, "Oh, that's really refreshing, because most programs won't support that."
And we noticed that whilst the number of men going through is small,
significantly lower.
But it's
still occurring, and the effect of it, I think, is a little more drastic on men.
A
lot of men,
That's what
there's a lot of pride. They won't report it because someone's like, "You're going through DV, but you're 3 times the size of her. How could you be going through DV?"
Because it's not always physical.
Correct.
But at the same time,
that's the other things we hear. Some of the de-identified stories was where the woman's come in saying, "I wish you just hit me, because no one will believe me." There's no physical. When I present, I'm a wreck, but there's no physical damage on my body, because it's all been emotional or coercive or financial.
But I think that is more insidious because it is invisible. And it's easier to get away with because, again, all the gaslighting, all the comments that roll through your head at that moment. You know, he must be correct, or she must be correct, because I do have all these problems. Maybe I do have warrants, or maybe I have issues with the police. And that's just a trigger button, and they're going to press that thing.
It's all about creating doubt in the mind of the victim, and then building on it, and to the point where they can't function.
And they've probably been living that way for
decades.
Yes.
Some people.
Yes.
I've had people come in 30 years. They've been in abusive relationships, and
or some as early as 3 to 6 months.
So
but it is something that we do, and again, we both identify and understand that it is a very gender-based female challenge. But in our work, we have absolutely noticed. I'm going to say it's a growing factor for men. I will. She may not. I will say that.
But I think men need to be aware of this in all ways anyway, because either it's supporting other men who are going through it, or let's talk about the perpetrators.
Well,
Because they say that for every perpetrator, there's at least 3 victims.
yeah, exactly. There's not one
So-
guy running around doing all of this.
Yeah.
And if we've got 1 in 5 women who are victims of family violence, then we are talking,
Correct. Yeah.
Again, numbers.
You look around,
Numbers factor.
you're at a party and you realise at least, X number of people at that function
Yes.
have committed family violence.
Yes.
This, for me, the scary thing is often they don't realise it because
It's been so gradual. It's just been picked at.
but the perpetrator thinks
you don't know.
it's perfectly normal behaviour. Either they grew up with it, or it's
learn behaviour.
or it's reinforced in the media or their social networks. Look, we could talk for hours.
Well, let me ask you, what is it that folks in Victoria, what would you like to see them do to help further this cause in that direction?
3 big things, really. It's help us get phones,
Okay.
help us get funds to fix those phones, and connect us with support agencies. So if someone is working or knows of a domestic violence agency that needs free phones from us, connect us. If it's a local police station, connect us, because we can push that back up and say, hey, here's another one that wants to take them on. Let's get this program on the road, guys.
Yeah, get it started.
We provide to, I think it's around 33 agencies in Victoria right now, which are not the VicPol, including in the CBD and in some regional areas. And they themselves have multiple locations. Some have multiple safe houses. So we only know of one location because that's where we send phones to their corporate office. But we never know the location of those safe houses, and I never want to. But we can do more. We can allocate. As I said, I want to keep this thing fair across the country. We get a lot of phones already from corporates in Victoria and New South Wales. So I want to make sure phones are going fairly across the country. Whereas at the moment, a lot are going to Queensland, Western Australia, South Australia, then Sydney, then Melbourne. Even Tassie, there's 9 police stations in Tassie just came online.
Right.
So, Tassie's on board. Yep.
All right, Victoria.
Yeah, it's time we stepped up.
So do
Absolutely.
we contact through the website then?
Yeah,
I mean, just-
dvsafephone.org is our website. There's contacts in there, and we've got a team of people who deal with this. I've employed a lady who used to work for safe houses in the US.
Oh.
Yeah, so she's a social worker from overseas, seen some horrible things there.
Yes,
And she now helps me basically on board anyone who asks for phones. So any agency, she'll make sure that they are proper agency, because we do get a lot of requests from phones from a lot of different
Smaller. Yeah. Well,
individuals and groups, and like homeless shelters might ask. And we say, look, if there's people who are homeless because of DV, absolutely. But if they're homeless for other reasons, they certainly deserve a phone, but we don't have enough phones to go around yet.
Right.
Yet.
So
We'll
this
see
is
we go.
what we're focusing
And
on at the moment.
yeah, and people who donate a phone to me, we're called DV Safe Phone. They expect that phone to go to a domestic violence survivor. So I try I do make sure that that's the only place the phones go.
All right. Well, let's get this out there then.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, great.
And thank you so much for giving us the time today. It's been a delight. Love
And very
to have
educational,
you back.
too.
And love to have
Yeah.
you back at some point once as this is all growing.
As we kick through in Victoria.
Yeah, let's try.
Yes,
And,
yes.
I mean, we've got a couple of advocates here now. We'll do our best to
And
get
we're
them.
not quiet.
No,
No,
you might
no.
notice we're a bit noisy.
Well, I think that once we get some establishment, we'll probably look to see if we can get some funding for an event down here where we'll actually bring in agencies to talk about this more. We do have a free app as well, which it's hidden and it's used as a bit of a monitoring app. I'll show you when we're all done with this. And it's something that we don't publicly advertise what it is or how it works. So when the app developer offered to make me an app, I said, yeah, let's do this.
a
But
look
I
at
said, if
that.
you're doing this for fame, I'm not your guy, because we're not going to publicly talk about this.
No.
And if you're doing it for money, I'm not your guy, because we're not going to sell it. It's going to be free. So we give that away to every agency as well to pass on, and I'll show you that a bit later. But
But
we,
yeah,
don't, we don't talk about how to get into it or what it is publicly. Yeah.
No, but that's okay. Right now, we just focusing on getting the word out, getting police stations, getting businesses
Getting
involved, start
phones
collecting the
donated and
funds.
shipped off to you.
And
Yeah,
funding.
All of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Funding,
yeah.
those gold coins add up. So
Oh, they do.
those
They really
$5,
do.
there's a place to donate on the website as well.
There is, yeah.
There we
And
go.
Rotary
Well
clubs, so Rotary Frankston down here.
Really?
They ran an event for us and sent us over 100 phones. This is only 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And it costs me on average $75 for every phone that leaves So by the time we pay for rent, power, part-time people, screens, batteries, cables, postage, SIM cards, it's $75 per phone that leaves. And we're sending 150 phones a week out the door. So I'll let you work out that. That's costing us right now to do
all
it.
right. So
they
put out there
gave us
that-
100 phones and $7,500. So it was great. Yeah, it was perfect.
But, sending $75, that sends a phone.
Yes.
Yes. Equipped, ready to go to somebody who needs it.
We're getting the wind up.
All right. Thank you again. We will chat back with you next time.
Yeah, lovely
And,
to
lovely
meet you. And
Thank you so much for your
It's
time
been a
today.
really,
Appreciate
really
it.
interesting talk. Thank you.
Thanks.